promiscuous. Two of them were even virgins, one at the age of 25. This goes against Western belief that Africans are more sexually promiscuous than we are. None of those girls have ever been diagnosed with either HIV or AIDS. And I've not developed any symptoms, and if I were to have been infected by any deadly virus, then I think that would have been detected if there were a test that can detect the alleged virus known as HIV. As it happens, I have on occasions tested on the request of certain partners that I've had, and continually been found to be negative, which doesn't surprise me, but might surprise Westerners to hear that I've had unprotected sex with a number of partners over a prolonged period of time, and also had unprotected sex with some sex workers in other periods over the last 6 years. I'd like to just raise the points of the sexual promiscuity of my Western partners that I've had in the past. I think all of them, without exception, have been more promiscuous than any of the partners I've had in Africa, or even any of the girls, any typical African girl. And I can give a couple of examples. There's an ex-German girlfriend of mine who was an escort in Tokyo for 3 years. She's never been diagnosed with AIDS and is in good health today. There's an ex-British partner who, at the age of 23, when I last was in contact with her, had over 100 partners in her short life. At that time, short life. There's an ex-Danish girlfriend who's in her life has had, before we met, 4 abortions. And she's recently admitted to me in a conversation that she's had 40 partners in her life. There's another ex-Danish girlfriend who I was with for 5 years, and then shortly afterwards she was boasting to her friend, a mutual friend, that she'd had sex with 3 different partners in one day. And most of the time these girls I've known in the past don't use condoms, and they don't like them. None of them has got sick. All of them are very healthy and alive and well. Lastly, I'd like to mention a friend of mine from Sweden, let's say acquaintance. He's been going to Uganda almost on an annual basis since 1988 for the specific purpose of having sex with prostitutes for between 2 weeks and 4 weeks, like I said, almost on an annual basis. And he has, when I did the calculations of the information he gave me, and he confirmed this, he has sex with 50 prostitutes without using condoms on each trip. He's just come back from Uganda this week on his latest trip. He's 54 years old, he's quite overweight, and he drinks too much, and he can't walk very fast without sweating, but I don't think he has AIDS. He looks okay. He has a drinking problem, but he's intact. And there are similar accounts that are available if anybody cares to go to this slum area that I was referring to earlier, called Kampala in Kampala, where you have tourists, NGO workers and expats congregating at bars for the specific purpose of enjoying themselves and often going home with a young Ugandan lady. There's no AIDS epidemic there. Assuming that sex is related to AIDS, then you would imagine that there should be a trace of something spreading in that community, you know, but there isn't. If I think that if there were one case of somebody coming, an expat or an NGO worker or a tourist coming down with being diagnosed with AIDS, we would hear about it in the press because of the way the media works. But no, the AIDS programs and the resources and all the money and attention all goes to the poor people in the slum areas, 200 meters, 300 meters away. Often is the case that the people who are being diagnosed have never had sex. They're virgins. But that doesn't create any suspicion among the compassionate activists or do-gooders.
Where do they think the transmission comes from if these people are virgins?
Well, they then resort to concluding that the 15-year-old girl who's never been seriously sick before must have contracted the elusive virus from her mother, who often is the case died. They use the death, even though the deceased was never tested. The presumption is that so-and-so must be sick because they've tested positive for antibodies to alleged HIV, and that happened because the parent died, and the parent died because she or he had AIDS. So there are many factors and presumptions that serve to create a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is inescapable. Whenever somebody tests positive, there'll always be someone who comes up with an assumption as to where the supposed infection came from.